Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Wednesday evening, Clear Mountain Monastery Dhamma talk and Dhamma conversation. And we'll begin this evening's session with a salutation to the Triple Gem. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay, welcome everyone. Sorry we're a little bit late. It's a good contemplation as the topic for this evening's talk and questions and conversation is temporal intelligence, what that means in a Buddhist context. What is Buddhist productivity? What would the Buddha say is good time management? What is Buddhist time management? So as usual, for these Wednesday evening talks, we'll begin with just some thoughts for the first half hour. And then after that, we'll open it up to questions, and people are free to insert comments in the question box on YouTube at any point, and we'll address those after at about 6:30. So this is the final talk in the series that we've been giving on the 7 different types of intelligence that the Buddha discusses in the Anguttara Nikaya's Book of the Sevens, Sutta number 64. And it's how the Buddha said to conceive of time. What does it mean to be someone who knows time, someone who is proficient in ordering their daily lives? So this is nestled in this list of 7 intelligences, which are Dhammaññū, so Dhammic intelligence, Atthaññū, which we've labeled as intuitive intelligence, or knowing the meaning, knowing what's beneficial. We have Atthaññū, ATTA, which is knowing oneself. That's intrapersonal intelligence. We have Matthaññū, which is quantitative intelligence, or knowing the right measure with regards to food, clothing, shelter, etc. Then we've got Kālaññū, the subject for this evening's talk, and Parisaññū, social intelligence, and Pugala Paro Paraññū, which is knowing distinctions among individuals, or interpersonal intelligence. So why might it be important to think about time? Why would it be important, or what's significant in thinking of time in a Buddhist way, or ordering one's day in a way which the Buddha suggested? That's what we'll be looking at this evening. And I think it can be useful. People are often just coming to Buddhism thinking that all there is meditation, and that's only one very small, usually segment of one's day, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour or 2 hours for people who are really committed. But it's only a very small segment of one's day. And what we'll be examining is all the other hours of one's day, in a sense, and how the Buddha said to order those. But also, in addition to Kālaññū, so knowing time, we'll look at a very unique perspective on time, which comes about in the Buddhist teachings of Kālaññū, so timelessness, having a atemporal intelligence, or a knowledge of the timeless. So akaliko, for people who have been around monasteries, this is the 3rd quality of the Dhamma, which people will chant in Orthodox traditional Theravada Buddhist monasteries. The Dhamma is said to be well taught, swakato bhagavata dhammo, sanditiko, akaliko, ehipasiko, opanaiko, pachatang veditabo vinyuhi. It's well taught, it's inviting one to come and see, it's apparent here and now, it's timeless, and it's to be realized by intelligent people. So this quality of timelessness, how does that jive with this, what we're looking at of, knowing time? What does that mean? How does this paradox resolve itself? So I'll just read from the primary text, again, Anguttara 7.64, and there's a link to it just below the video. So how does one have temporal intelligence, or how does one know time? Here, a practitioner knows the right time, thus, in 4 ways. So this is time for recitation, or udesa, which is, this is the time for, the announcement, or this is the time for speaking, you could think. This is the time for speaking. 2, this is the time for questioning. 3, this is the time for meditation. And 4, this is the time for retreat or seclusion, patisalana. And because someone knows their time in these 4 ways, they are called one who has temporal intelligence, or one who knows time. So just rattling off those 4, if you are a normal non-monk, like most people are, at least most of you are non-monks. The normality is maybe differing on an individual basis. But yeah, you're reading these like time for recitation, questioning, meditation, and retreat. I mean, come on. I mean, that's all the Buddha said. Those are the 4 ways that the Buddha broke up his time. And it is, and again, the Buddha was talking to a monastic audience when he gave this talk. And at the time, the Sangha, the group of monastics, was still a very simple community, and pretty much, the only thing on the calendar every day would have been alms round. And then you go on your alms round fairly early in the morning, you come back and you have your meal, and then there's probably some small duties to do around the monastery, but you just go back to your hut and you meditate in seclusion. So we'll be kind of flushing this out, trying to see how this might be applicable for non-monastics, or even for monastics whose lives involve more than just recitation, questioning, meditation, and retreat. Or if you want to flip it around, how can we conceive of our lives within those 4 frameworks? That could also be an interesting question. To go back to and to have a parallel thread as we're talking about timefulness. So the unique aspect of this talk and this discourse is, you can go on YouTube, you can go to a bookstore and find hundreds. You go on Amazon, you probably maybe even find thousands of books on productivity, how to manage your time in a worldly sense, how to put everything onto your Google Calendar, or whatever, dozens of different calendar apps and organization apps you've got. But the unique thing is that though the Buddha is talking about knowing time and place, being able to have distinctions of what your duties are in different environments at different periods throughout the day, there's this continual thread, and it might even be said that this is of even more fundamental importance, is this knowing of akalika, knowing timelessness. So this discourse of Kālaññū, or the Dhammaññū, these 7 intelligence, it occurs a number of times in the canon, maybe a handful. But the elaboration of the Dhamma being timeless occurs possibly hundreds of times. It occurs all over the place. So just by that metric, we can see that the Buddha really did highlight the importance of, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we've got on our schedule, whether we're a monk, whether we're a nun, whether we're a lay person, or whatever our job living in the world, how do we tap into, what does it mean to tap into timelessness, to know the atemporal nature of existence? What that's pointing to is this present moment. And having mindfulness and clear comprehension, able to be fully here and now. And how do we do that all day, no matter what we've got on our list of things to do? That's of primary importance. And yeah, maybe before we even go on, it might be useful for people who aren't familiar with what this might mean. When you hear this, okay, timelessness, it seems like an abstract concept. Maybe it's something philosophical. That's not how the Buddha meant it. There is a discourse where the Buddha is defining nibbana. What is nibbana? And the Buddha basically says it is, one of the definitions is it's timeless. Nibbana is timeless. But so is the practice of the Dhamma leading to nibbana. So timelessness in this sense, akalika, is something we can do. It's a practice. So what the timeless Dhamma practice is in one sense, it's just clearly being awake and aware. And that might not seem like enough guidance for some people. That is for some people who have been maybe practicing for a long time. You just hear, abide in awareness, and people can do that. But for many of us, especially those of us who love to think, or those of us who, if you're listening to this talk, maybe you're someone who loves to plan, like I am. The planning mind, it's beautiful. It can take you really far in the world. That's, it's an aspect of conscientiousness, which will really, in large measure, really help you progress in a worldly sense, being able to plan your days. But if you don't know how to stop, if you don't know how to come back to the body, come back to the breath, come back to presence, come back to the present moment, then your planning mind will eat you alive. Your planning mind will eat up your day. There's a very useful concept called the tyranny of small decisions, or maybe another way to think of it is the tyranny of small tweaking, or small plans, basically the tyranny of small plans. And what this is that nagging mind. When you are new to a meditation practice, you've sat down and the thought comes up, oh God, yeah, I got this great idea. I got to write that down, or, oh yeah, what am I, after the meditation session, I'm going to, I need to cook dinner. So I got to get these ingredients, and that planning mind is really useful outside of meditation. But inside of meditation, it just, you become a slave. You become a slave to your planning mind. And most of us don't know how to stop it. And most people don't even see a reason to stop it. You see, the planning mind, it's what brings success. Being able to plan projects, bigger and bigger projects, larger and larger projects over longer periods of time. And the skill with which you can do that, you're rewarded in society. So we've been getting all these basically dopamine hits whenever we're praised from, the time when we're babies, when our parents, cuddle us and give us all these, motherese type, oh, yes, you're great. As soon as we, start sleeping on a schedule and, following their schedule, basically, we're rewarded for thinking in a time-bound way. So it's nothing, you don't hate yourself for when you are in meditation and the thought comes up, oh yeah, tomorrow I got to plan that meeting, and I got to write this email. I mean, emails are especially, that's totally a time-bound realm. So how do we enter timelessness, time-boundlessness? Well, one is just to, in meditation specifically, is to label the planning mind as being the tyranny of small decisions, the tyranny of small planning. And when you label it like that, this is tyranny. Why is it tyranny? Because if you don't put a dam, if you don't put a damper, if you don't put a plug on this continuous stream of your plans and your thoughts and your proliferations about the future and thoughts about the past and how that past meeting went and your next conversation will go, then your whole life just gets gobbled up. You're tyrannized. You're just a fief. The king, the emperor of your past habits and past planning. Obsessiveness has taken over your heart, and you don't even realize it. You just follow along. So one is just realizing it, labeling it. This is actually tyrannical. I don't need to follow that. I don't want to follow that. Come back to the body. Come back to the breath. And until people are able to rest in present moment awareness, awake, bright, it's good to have anchors, various markers, which will give you a hint that your mind has wandered from the present moment. Those can exist, the body, your posture. And that just doesn't have to be just in meditation. You can keep a good posture all throughout the day. And if you find yourself in your computer chair and you're just more and more humped over and slouched over and slumped over, all these SL words, then it's possible, if you've set up that you want to have an upright posture, that your mindfulness has slipped. So that's one indicator that you've left the present moment and have gotten sucked into your computer, sucked into your plans for the future or your proliferations about the past. Another thing is mantras. I just heard a beautiful story from one of the nuns at City of 10,000 Buddhas that they've got a particular mantra. For them, it's what's called the Shirangama Mantra, which is quite long, actually. It's about maybe 10 or 15 minutes chanted. But she basically just has that going in the background all the time. It's almost as if it's playing by itself. And so you can have a mantra, and that can bring you back to the present. As soon as the tyrannical mind, planning mind comes up, you're like, oh yeah, I want to go back to that nice little mantra song I had in my mind. Or the breath. So these are just some ways you can stay in the present, in brief. Okay, so what this kind of way of conceiving of the interplay between temporal intelligence and atemporal intelligence, or knowing timelessness and having a sense of time in a worldly way. You can think of it as a 2x2 grid, with on the top, on the horizontal axis, we've got temporal ignorance and temporal intelligence. On the vertical axis, we've got atemporal ignorance and atemporal intelligence. So in someone who is ignorant of time in a worldly sense and ignorant of time in a Dhammic sense, they don't know a Kālaññū. This is like a slacker, someone who doesn't know how to organize their days, and they aren't present to the present moment, here and now. Then we've got the quadrant over here on your upper right, which is people who are intelligent in like a worldly sense of time. Yeah, they have temporal sense in that way, but they have an atemporal ignorance. So this is like a stressed out productivity guru who's just totally stressed out, knows how to organize their time on Google Calendar, whatever, but doesn't know how to stay in the present moment and is just fully pulled along by their thoughts and proliferations. On the lower left-hand quadrant, you've got someone who is ignorant of time in a worldly sense, but is intelligent in the sense of Dhamma, so an atemporal intelligence. So this is like a cave hermit who is always in the present moment, but doesn't know how to deal with their calendar. It's someone who just, they're great in their hut. They're just always in the present moment, blissed out, whatever. But then they go into the town and they're just, pulled here and pulled there. Don't know what to do with their time. And then over here, the last quadrant, the best quadrant, where hopefully I think most of us want to be, is you have temporal intelligence and atemporal intelligence. This is the Buddha. This is Lumpur Cha. This is Ajahn Lumpur Pasano. People who are both always in the present moment. They know Akaliko, but they also have a sense of time. So Ajahn Pasano is, stays in the present moment, no matter where he is. As far as one can, as far as I've seen that. He's not pulled here and there, just kind of a slave to whatever thought arises. So this is just an interesting matrix way to think about these things. And I think most people watching this channel will incline and want to be in this lower right-hand quadrant of, both knowing how to plan our days, but also being able to rest in the present moment as we go about our daily tasks. So that's one cool matrix. Since some of the talk got cut off, people might not have questions. I will share 3 cool quotes, and I'll share the coolest one first so people can be conceiving of that, and feel free to enter questions in the dialogue box as you're so inclined. But the first quote is from Lumpur Buddhadasa, so Ajahn Buddhadasa. He defined time, so he said, time is the distance between craving and its gratification. Time is the distance between craving and its gratification. That's very profound, and I think many people would hear that and just say, doesn't make any sense. There's nothing there. But for people who've sat a retreat, who've actually been able to watch their minds and not just be totally dragged through the ringers by their obsessive planningness, and they've been able to actually disengage, shift into neutral, and watch this process, you can see that when you're resting in timelessness, then one key aspect to resting in timelessness is the absence of craving. So one thing which lets us stay in this present moment awareness, this knowing awareness, is when we don't have anything that's pulling our attention. As soon as that craving arises, then that's when the clock starts. The stopwatch has gone off, and we're just started to create our future. And when you see this most is when you try to push your daily meditation time, just a few minutes into the future. You've got your faithful clock, your faithful cell phone, which will ring after 15 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. But today you're going to experiment, well, what about an hour and a half? Or what about an hour, 5 minutes? What about 50 minutes rather than 45? This is when you see the invention of time. Yeah. For anyone who's sat a retreat, you will know this intimately. You will know this. You'll be able to bite your teeth into this when time just seems to slide to it becomes, one, you see the extreme relative nature of time because it seems to slow down to, slower than molasses. Every click is, death. It's another nail in the dukkha of your present moment experience. Or worse, if someone else has been in charge of the clock and they haven't rung it at the appropriate time, then every moment time has been totally created in your mind. There's this craving, this sit better end. And to the extent that the fulfillment is into the future, the person hasn't rung the bell, you're just going to be experiencing time in a very manifest and crushing way. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the chat box. So the second quote, as people let that percolate into your consciousnesses, is that everything is a clock. Yeah, so this is something you hear in physics circles among physicists, is that everything is a clock. And this is an interesting, it kind of, when you reflect on this truth, it kind of bridges the gap between the time-bound and the timeless. So everything is a clock. I'm a clock. My teeth are a clock. Yeah, this Buddha image is a clock. Certainly the sky is a clock. These light bulbs are a clock. In what sense are they a clock? Go on YouTube and search time-lapse anything. Time-lapse face, time-lapse light bulb, time-lapse flower, time-lapse whatever. What does that mean, time-lapse? That's how everything is a clock, is because everything is constantly changing, and you can see it in these videos, or if you just watch something for long enough. We're fooled by things which are seemingly solid and stable, but look deeper, look closer, and everything is whirling and whizzing at amazing speeds. And the final quote, because we'll zoom off to our Wednesday evening Zoom conversation, the final quote is that the intersection of time with timelessness is the occupation of the saint. So you don't have to be a monk, you don't have to be a nun to want to be a saint, to try to be a saint, to be someone who's saintly. Just practice in this lower right quadrant of knowing time and knowing timelessness, and practicing being present with all of that. So sorry about the internet drop. That was a bummer, but I'm glad some of you stuck through, and we'll switch over to Zoom now. So I hope everyone has a good evening.